Thank you, Uday. Honorable Patricia Scotland, Secretary General, Commonwealth, Richard Honorable Sir John Key, former Prime Minister of New Zealand, Honorable Kyriakos Kokkinos, Deputy Minister to the President, Research and Innovation and Digital Policy, Cyprus, Uday Nagaraj, Founder and Director, AI Policy Labs, Co-Founder and Executive President, Global Policy Insights. Excellencies, distinguished participants, ladies and gentlemen, a very good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to you all. The last decade has been characterized by the rise of artificial intelligence and machine learning. While these technologies are more than half a century old, recent breakthroughs in these fields are leading towards making them have more transformational effect on society. While technology has changed rapidly since the Industrial Revolution, human beings have remained the same. Historically, technological progress, even when it was revolutionary, gave ample time for society to adjust to its ramifications. Even in the case of rapid changes, legislation and other aspects of society caught up with technological change. Developments in AI, however, are happening with such breakneck speed that societies and governments are finding it challenging to keep up with the pace. I think that is what Madam Secretary General just highlighted. However, the ethical and moral challenges that we face are not very different from the challenges that our ancestors faced thousands of years ago. It is these challenges that I would like to highlight in today's keynote. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, AI's impact on privacy and human rights is one such area of concern where such changes are taking place. One such area of concern is the ability of AI systems to discern patterns in the data that are not perceptible to human beings, and then use these patterns to violate privacy or worse, human rights. In the US, AI models that were meant to create a fairer justice system ended up discriminating against African Americans. These models predicted that black people were more likely to reoffend when the opposite was in fact true. Or consider the case of using facial recognition to stop people at port of entry. Given that facial recognition systems are not perfect and have been shown to make many more mistakes in identifying brown or dark skinned people as compared to the white people. The same problem also exists for facial recognition systems developed in China as well as Japan. The problem with AI systems in particular and algorithmic decision-making systems in general is that they offer possibility to individuals, groups, organizations, even governments to hide behind the shift and blame from humans to machines. Thus, the need of the hour is to embed ethical and moral principles into our machines. Even when personally identifiable information is not used in building AI models, such models can indirectly infer personal characteristics of a person. There have been numerous studies where AI systems discriminated against people based on their gender, race, nationality, etc., even though the models were not to be built by us. For example, Amazon using AI for hiring decisions but ended up discrimination against women. Microsoft creating a chatbot to have conversations, but that chatbot adopting a racist and fascist mannerism of talking. Another technology of concern is that of generate adversarial networks or GANs, where it is possible to generate fake images, text and speech of people which can be used to spread misinformation or even false libel against others. This poses a great challenge for all nations in general and smaller island nations like Maldives with limited resources in particular. With guns, AI has already taken us into uncanny valley, but also offers us the possibility to illuminate the human connection. Guns have been used to create deep fakes, that is, fake pictures and videos of people, which are indistinguishable from the real. Deep fakes are already wreaking havoc on the US elections, where these are being used to sway people's opinions. Researchers like Hao Lee from University of Southern California have even predicted that it would soon be impossible to distinguish real images from the fake. On the other hand, there are also benign or even beneficial uses of such technology. For example, a computer science researcher has created a simulation of his late father to give his children a chance to interact with their deceased grandfather. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, more than 100 large organizations and governments have issued guidelines on how to use and regulate AI. But regulatory frameworks themselves are vastly behind the state of the art. Even more comprehensive regulatory frameworks like the European Union's GDPR, General Data Protection Regulation, do not sufficiently define the limits and scope of what AI models can and cannot do. In addition to the rapid progress in the field, the other limitation is the lack of adequate education with respect to problems that are posed by AI. Since legislations and regulations are devised by people who may not have adequate domain knowledge in AI, they end up being overregulated or underregulated. Take, for example, in the US, the FDA, Food and Drug Administration's guidelines on AI models as software. The regulations are so strict that even a small change in the models require going through approval process, even though in the real world, small incremental changes are inevitable given the dynamic nature of most real-world applications. The existing gaps can be overcome by integrating domain experts in the regulatory process and educating legislative bodies with a minimal level of education when it comes to privacy and the use and abuse of AI. The smaller and relatively lean nature of the governance in small island nations like Maldives may actually be an advantage with respect to addressing gaps in the regulatory landscapes. While there are more than 100 nations or subnational policy papers on AI ethics, most of these do not address the concerns of the small actors like the island nations or the perspective of the common man. Towards this goal, Maldives is working on developing a policy framework in AI to address the concerns of the small island nations, including the perspectives of common man. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, COVID-19 offers huge challenges and opportunities for AI and human rights, as people may be more likely to give up data in exchange for security. Consider Netherlands' System Risk Indication Program that creates risk profiles of its citizens for fraud detection. It has been argued that systems such as these reinforce their own findings in a feedback loop, as they have a disproportionate impact on vulnerable members of the society. In the era of COVID-19, the trade-off balancing privacy and public health is going to be important, which requires careful and thinking and adequate guardrails. Amnesty International has also argued that just talking about ethical AI may lead to ethics washing. That is a phenomenon analogous to whitewashing, which downplays actions while emphasizing it in speech. As governments, we should make ethical technology bad for businesses. Governments should take their cues from the open source movement where pieces of legislations at the forefront of technology could be open from comment from the research community for a given period of time. Afterwards, the legislature could take the feedback into account when devising new laws. AI also offers opportunities to do tremendous social good if adequate technical safeguards like federated learning, privacy preserving machine learning, etc., are employed. For example, the government of Maldives has embarked upon using AI to identify high risk patients for diabetes. Privacy preserving machine learning is being used to build AI models that and creation and of use of the models do not impinge upon the privacy of individual people. In recognizing the importance of adopting and embracing emerging technologies, the strategic action plan of our government targets to establish at least 2 facilities to provide training on artificial intelligence, machine learning, on emerging technologies by 2023, and we seek the assistance of Global Insight, Uday, and your team in this as well. When we foresee AI as a central technology in national development of our small island nation, from food security to energy needs of our tiny and dispersed communities, in the increasing extreme weather and climate change backdrop, the strategic application of AI and other frontier technologies may very well be our ticket to sustainable and inclusive development. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, AI has been quite integrating in our lives for the best part of the decade. But today, its applications are getting ready for the battlefield and serving us our groceries. From the electronic canines of what the US military calls the Advanced Battle Management System to Walmart's pilot project for delivery of grocery and household products through automated drones, AI today is fast becoming an everyday necessity of our lives. It is our hope that AI can lead to an era where it can amplify the voice of the common man and women while striking a balance between human rights, privacy, and services that it can provide. This may be one of the most challenging and defining problems of our era. We invite everyone to contribute towards addressing these challenges with us. Finally, let me take this opportunity to thank Uday Nagaraj, founder and director of AI Policy Labs and co-founder and executive president of Global Insights, for organizing this wonderful summit and inviting me. We believe such conclaves and summits are an integral and essential component of ensuring technology development is inclusive for everyone. Thank you so much and stay safe.
Thank you.